Welcome everyone to another episode of Constructive Conversations. I am Lisa Maitland, your host, and today I sit with a key player. I believe someone that should be a part of your team of professionals. I sit with Mr. Clint Langton. He is a QS, a quantity surveyor. Clint, thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to share to the public the information that I have.
Yes.
To the constituents.
Thank you so much. I think it's a field that isn't well known. I don't know if you agree with me on that, in terms of persons not being aware of what a QS does. So I want to start with that first question. Tell me, what does the work of a QS entail?
All right, okay, thanks. First, let's for the public who is listening, QS means quantity surveyor.
Yes.
And yes, we are probably the industry's best kept secret. The architect designs the building, the engineer, structural engineer designs how the building stands up, and the MEP engineers, electrical, AC, they make the building livable. What we bring to a construction project, big or small, is that we deal with cost and all administrative issues. So preparing a tender document, ensuring that you choose the best contractor, monitoring costs throughout the project by interim payments, contractors' claims, and then agreeing the accounts down the end. And in some instances, especially for domestic or residential clients, depends on what you have engaged us to do. You can be also doing things like material list and material schedules and stuff like that.
Okay.
To ensure that you, the homeowner, is not spending money unnecessarily.
Yeah, because I've gotten that, especially for residential projects. Persons have said to me, I don't need a QS for residential. It's a small building. I could manage the cost on my own. And then you hear a sad story later down. So.
Yes. Yes.
Even on a project that size, you can get down into that kind of detail that would help in the long run the client manage that cost.
One of the issues or problems that we have is that, especially with now architects doing a lot of work digitally,
right?
You can get programs that can accept the drawings digitally.
Correct.
That can then throw out quantities.
Yes, true.
And we've had the displeasure of people saying, I can do what you was doing now. Yeah, because I have a program and the generation quantities for a document is but one facet of what a quantity surveyor does. It is an important one, but in the whole scheme of things, it is really
just one portion.
Yeah, just one portion.
Okay.
All right, and time and time again, we see people will do that. They will. I've had people ask me to the point where now I have a standard, albeit little brash response when people say, I can do what you do. And my response is, has the High Court of Trinity Tobago ever relied on your advice? No, they can't do what I just do. They're not that. Because to appear in a legal matter as an expert witness, then you need to properly qualify. Not to tell them, I have a program.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Right, so let's look at on a normal project, and normal have no relation to size.
Okay.
Because the average project, in truth and in fact, should have all the players.
Right.
What will happen is that the larger project, then the players become specialized.
Okay.
And the smaller project, some of the rules may become
intermingled. Yeah, that is true. Because I was going to ask about that in terms of the size of the project. Does it matter? In terms of your role, whether you are there only for big projects or small projects?
People unfortunately think that, and there's a few people that tend to say, well, there's one in particular we refer to. The client said, big project, he doesn't need anybody to tell him how to spend his money.
Wow.
And we use that as a reference now because what we say is that you can either pay the QS fees or pay lawyer fees.
Right.
There are three big projects that we can refer to, but we're not going to sue us. But choose not to use QSs and they all end up in court.
Wow. Noted.
Right.
Wow.
So the QS would be early on. You can use us either as the first point of call or the second point of call. I mean, the first point of call is that, no, in the first instance, we are customer focused. So the customers that come to us to say, well, hey, I
We
want to
need
do
this
something.
service, right?
Right. So a
And
client,
this could be for residential, commercial, retail.
whatever. So customer comes to us and say, I want to build. It can be, I have this land and I want to build X, or I have this land. What can I do with it?
Okay.
Or I have, and that can be the jump off point.
Okay.
At times you may go to the architect and say, the architect come through this, and then the architect will then come to us and say, okay,
correct, yeah.
what can we do? And then we could talk about certain preliminary budgets and initial budgets. That's okay. Either, I would say forward looking or backward looking. Forward looking saying, this is how much money you will need to spend.
Okay.
Or backward looking, this is the amount of money I have. And then you could tell that what you can do with it.
What you can do with it, okay.
So I start from zero going up, which is designing to a cost, or the other way, which is costing a design.
Yeah, and most persons, from my experience, most persons come saying, my experts, my budget is this. I have this amount, and what can I do with it? So that's working.
That helps.
Okay.
That helps because then that sets the parameters.
Okay. So when you get that information now, what do you do? What do you do with that kind of information?
Okay, that's like homeowner saying, okay, I want to build a house, I have X amount of money, and then we can start to work within those parameters. But that's a little further down the line. I'll come back to that. So in the first instance, we can help set the initial budgets. And a lot of times people don't pay attention to that. So even now in the national sphere, we can see projects that project bust. And we as professionals are asking, is it that the project bust, or is that the real cost was realized?
Okay.
There's an example I use when I'm talking to my students and others. And the example I use, I say, okay, and I told someone this recently. Let's say COVID was out the picture, and the gentleman is treating his female friend to carnival fete. So he says, okay, I am treating you and I'm sponsoring you carnival fete.
Okay.
Outfit, hair, makeup, ticket, $2,000. I was talking to a brother and sister, and the sister laughed. The sister said that might just be the outfit alone. And I said, no. This is the scenario. $2,000 for all of that. And she's laughing. I said, so I asked the brother, I said, what do you think? He said, well, you will need more money. I said, so your version to your friends will be what? The one was the budget.
Right.
And then you, the female, your version to your friends is this man didn't set a realistic budget.
Yeah, in first
so
place.
the budget was yes, but whose fault is it? Right, and that should be the jump off point. How do we set a realistic budget? Because I mean, think about it. If you want to go a decent, even if one of these schools all inclusive, you're talking about $900. So $900 for a ticket and then shoes and outfit. No.
Yeah.
So that should be the first point. Once you get that reasonably accurate, because no, we aren't 14 years, but we can, once we get a certain degree of accuracy, and then working with the team, the architects, so you know, okay, these are the design parameters.
Right.
Then it's the second stage is doing tender documents.
Okay.
Purposely tender document is to ensure we all speak in the same language.
Agreed.
Now, the example I use when I'm talking to students is, if I'm telling you, I'm thinking about a dish of rice, peas, and meat. What dish could that be?
Pilau.
First thing, pilau.
Yes.
And then people say, well, okay, it could be, and then you realize, when I start explaining to them all the different versions, we tell what type of rice?
No.
White rice, brown rice, basmati rice,
Right.
vegetable rice, Christmas rice, Spanish rice. What type of beans?
Yeah.
Lentils, dal, red beans, da.
And I'm assuming this is just for Trinidad in terms of my context, my thinking. So I would obviously think.
That is it. I didn't say Trinidad because it could be Jamaican rice and peas.
Yes.
It could be a Guyanese cooker.
Yes.
Right? It could be rice by itself, peas by itself, meat by itself. So if all you have said is I want rice, peas and meat, and you have 5 different people sending in quotations and prices, then what's the likelihood of them going to all, they're not pricing the same thing?
Yeah, correct.
And therefore, how are you going to make the best choice? Because they're trying to guess and figure out what you are specifying. Yeah. That's where we come in.
Yeah.
As part of the design team in doing a proper tender document. That we all speak in the same language.
Nice.
Then there's the actual tender.
Right.
And the evaluation of that tender. This is one of the issues we also have. We see people, especially in state agencies, evaluating tenders, and they aren't qualified to evaluate tender. We would have done a budget, done a document, and somebody else say they want to evaluate. And we say, okay, how can you say that this price is accurate or fair? And we have seen times where, unfortunately, people will say, well, yes, they're awarding this price. And we as the QS and outside now wondering, that can't make sense.
Mm-hmm. So let me get this right. You are, with tender document, you would then compare, as in apples to apples, so that you would know if things are priced correctly and thus be able to determine if this is a feasible...
that question has 2 parts.
Okay.
The first part is the apples to apples comparison that is done by the tender document itself. Okay. To ensure that we compare the same thing. The second aspect of that is then what do we compare to? We are now comparing, we would have, as the QS, we would do price the tender itself. And that will be the baseline we're going to arrive at. In our experience, we would normally end up somewhere in the middle, and we see some tenders coming slightly under, some tenders coming slightly above. And then we know, yes, we have done this properly. If we price something and everyone comes way above, I was working for a state agency a number of years ago, and the project was located in a which is now called a hotspot at the time. It wasn't called a hotspot. And we had done the budget and estimated, because crime a little hot in that area, we elevate the rates. We end up at a budget of just about 3 million. The lowest tender came back at 7.
7 million?
7. We talked with a contractor and he had priced 11 million, and we said, hold on, this job is supposed to be just under 2 million. And we've added on an extra million because of where it is, and they said because of crime had been an issue, they had priced it to the point of where I don't want it.
Yeah, okay.
And not even close.
Yeah.
I really don't want it. I really don't want it.
That's a big jump there.
Yeah, 2 million to 7 million.
Yeah.
Tired job to somebody else. I didn't want to pass on the street. And I realized, okay, so those kind of things, we as the professional can look at and say, okay, why is this price like this? Why is this price so low? And it's during the tender evaluation, we go and we ask contractors, because we know we'll be using market prices. So if someone is pricing something too high, we could make no service. They're pricing too low, because there's no such thing as a gift. Yes, many people think that, hey, I can have best price here.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, let's go back to what I like to use in our landscape, our FET.
Right.
The FET ticket costs $1,000, and your friend tell you he have it for $500.
Yeah, best price.
A best price. You know, when you reach and they scan that ticket by the gate, don't be surprised when you stay outside.
Right.
Nobody's giving back their $500.
No.
It's almost the thing that happens. If the construction price, the tender budget, the tender price is too low, at some point you will realize, hey, something not right with this. I use an analogy of food.
Okay. Let
Right.
me get this analogy.
If you were to do a dish, I'd say pilau, for a number of people, and you look at all the ingredients, not the overheads, light and gas and stove, no, just the ingredients. And you have price ingredients, and ingredients come to $100. to do this dish. And someone comes and say, hey, Miss Maitland, I could do that dish for you for $50.
Yeah.
Maybe not my labor, not the use of the utensils, the ingredients. Would you eat that?
I would have a few questions.
Plenty questions. Right? You would expect, okay, if you have priced at $100, I might go buy two other and get like 90, maybe even up to $70.
Right.
But if the ingredients are half the
Half
price,
yeah.
you figure, what wrong with it?
Yeah, that's the first question.
Right, and the same thing applies in construction, but we don't ask that question because we think we're getting
Our best price.
our best price.
So you would then, you're able, from the tender documents, I should say, you're able to evaluate, okay, someone is coming in too high, too low, try to manage into or figure out well and why.
Yes.
And then you would then advise the client to say, well, okay, they should go with this person or go with that person. That's
Yes, that is the tender assessment and recommendation.
Okay.
So we will assess the tenders and at the end we make a recommendation.
And when I say go with this person, that person, I'm talking about a contractor.
Yeah.
Right. So go with this contractor or that contractor because they have priced reasonably in comparison to the document that you would have produced. So tell me, how much does a QS cost?
That is the $1 million question.
Yes.
No, we don't charge cost $1 million. No, it's our fees, which is generally for like construction projects, large construction projects, are inversely proportional to the cost. Meaning, the larger the contract sum, the smaller the fee percentage.
Okay.
It ranges from like 1.8 to 2.5 as an average percent. So on a smaller contract sum, the fee might be 2.5%, and on a large contract, it might be 1 something, 1.8, 1.9%. That's on that, and that's doing full scope from budget, tender, all the way down to the end, close out to the project.
Okay.
If you're doing for QS reports for a mortgage institution, the fees as those set by the Institute of Surveyors of Trinidad and Tobago, you have a little form of it, which is $2,500 for the first $500,000. So the cost of the construction doesn't cost $500,000, $2,500, and it's 0.5% on anything over. So if it's $1 million, the first 500,000 is a flat 25,
Right.
and the second 500,000 is 0.5% of that,
Okay.
which works out to the next 2,500. So if your house is QS reports is costing $1 million, then yes, the fee will be $5,000.
So tell us, how exactly does one become a quantity surveyor?
Right, I am glad you asked that question because that's actually a problem or an issue that we are dealing with here locally.
Okay.
To become a quantity surveyor, okay, in the first instance, let me pull that back. Locally, we have the Institute of Surveyors of Trinidad and Tobago, the ISTT, which is the local body that deals with surveying matters, violation surveying. There are three main surveying disciplines: violation surveying. The people who want to come by a house when they talk about property tax, violation surveyors. Land surveyors, we all know them side of the road,
Right.
but they're actually governed by the Instrument of Parliament, Land Survey Board, and then you have coin surveyors.
Okay.
Right, and the ISTT has been in corporation for about, I think, 25 years or something like that. I am a past president of the ISTT.
Okay.
Right now, so I have to get on a plug there. And we, the Institute, have been doing work in that sphere because everyone wants to jump up and call themselves whatever.
Yeah.
And to protect our profession and to protect the public, the work has started to bear fruit. So, for example, to be employed in the government service of the QS, you need to be a member of the ISTT.
Okay. Full stop.
Full stop. You need to be employed in the government service as a violation surveyor, you need to be a member of the ISTT. Because everyone can get a qualified or a piece of paper from wherever institute and call themselves this.
Yeah.
Like I was telling a friend the other day, it's like, you could study medicine wherever. When you come here, all medical associates will say, if you can practice here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are plenty of people
Correct,
in the industry that calls themselves point surveyors, and being a past president and being on the interview panel for point survey members, I know almost all. To be qualified as a point surveyor, most are either doing it correspondence or abroad.
Okay.
All right. You can do engineering here, architecture right up in Jamaica.
Right, in Jamaica.
I would have got my degree via scholarship from IT McLeod, and that was it. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right. So yes, it's prohibitive in terms of cost, and in the limelight, no.
Yeah, it isn't.
The Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, the RICS, would have done surveys years ago when I was at the university, by the way, and about the surveying profession. And one of the things, they had surveyed secondary school students in Britain. Now, of all the things that we will talk about is that it isn't considered sexy enough as compared to architecture or engineering.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So no one grows up wanting to be a consultant.
Right.
And because we're not in the limelight, you're not
Right.
like the architect who's in the front or
Yeah.
the engineers. No, we are not that.
So it isn't well known.
For those reasons. Plus, the industry itself tries to maintain that because our sector industry is not saturated, neither locally nor globally, compared to the field of architecture.
Yeah.
The last thing we would have seen out of RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, someone had said it, we don't know how accurate it is, but for every architect in school to be employed, all practicing architects need to leave.
So in these challenging economic times, tell me, what advice would you give to a homeowner or developer that is thinking about starting a project, or maybe someone that's in the middle of a project already? What advice would you give?
All right. Good question, and there are two separate answers. Because if you're bringing us on board in the project's inception, when you're not looking to start, then yes, we can, the value we can bring, services we can bring from proper budgeting, setting proper construction project budgets, assisting with the evaluation and selection of contractors, the tender documents themselves, evaluating tenders. So it starts from the inception all the way through to the end, agreeing claims and what have you. If you're in the middle of a project and you're now bringing a QS on for the first time, that is usually because something would have gone wrong.
Exactly. So
that's a big red flag. Something would have gone wrong.
And what advice would you give?
Needless to say, we can still come on board because as a professional, we have done that right to come midstream. And it depends on what is the issue the client is then having to now realize, hey, I need this service. But typically, it will be some issue they're having with the contractor / construction and some kind of claims, and come on board to assist with the management and of those claims, and then the rest of other services. You see, because one of the other things that on a personal level, I'm also a chartered arbitrator, and that came from there. That the disputes and problems that we come across, that you're usually going to end up in, depending on the form of contract, either arbitration or out and out litigation. And most people are trying to avoid that.
Okay.
So, but as a QS, we in the middle of that, because when the contractor has a claim and if the claim isn't dealt with adequately and comprehensively, then you go into the next step, disputes, and then dispute resolution. So
you want to, your advice would be really to have persons have you on board from the start, rather than bring you in the middle when there's already trouble brewing, or?
It is akin to leaving Port of Watersfield and starting off with the map, how you're going to reach to the Port of Scarborough, as compared to reaching a Bocas and then you realize, wait now, we need a map.
Yeah.
One can make it a lot easier than the other. That is not to say that when you book us that we can't navigate it to the point of the port, but it will literally not be smooth sailing.
Yeah. Would it be more expensive at that point?
I can't see. Well, I don't know what problems you may have to now realize that you need this.
Okay. All right.
But generally, it is cheaper. People think, like I said, 2% of our contract cost is plenty. There are instances where they've chosen not to use us and end up in litigation. The lawyer fees is more than 2%.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
For sure. For sure. Thank you so much, Clint, for all that information. I think it's so useful, it's beneficial for all of us to have this moving forward with any project, big or small, as you said. It's important, I think, to have QS on board. Stay tuned for more constructive conversations.